Want the best way to shop online? Click kccars.com. Want thousands of vehicles at the lowest prices? Click kccars.com for McCarthy's brand new Chevys, Toyotas, Nissans, Hyundais, and certified and quality pre-owned vehicles all in one place. Over 1,400 new cars and trucks and 500 pre-owned all at your fingertips. Click kccars.com for the McCarthy Auto Group with over 2,000 new and pre-owned vehicles from the ease of your computer, tablet, or phone 24/7. Log on today. kccars.com.
8 a.m. is normally when you hear this program on Saturday mornings, every Saturday morning. So we get a special edition of Track Talk brought to you by McCarthy Auto Group right here on a Sunday. The first of two NASCAR Sprint Cup Series events, the STP 400 here at Kansas Speedway. Glad to have you along, taking you up to race time at a little after 12 noon. I'm Kirk Elliott along with Scott Traylor. Joining us here in our studio here at Kansas Speedway is Bob Pockrass from Sporting News, who's just come out of the garage area right now. What's going on out in the garage right now?
Any hot news coming out of the garage?
I mean, I guess the hot news is that there's no news for Brad Keselowski and Joey Logano. I just walked onto pit road about 10 minutes ago, and their cars are sitting there, not being worked on. They're all through tech, just ready to go. So no repeat from last week, at least for them. There's still some cars going through tech, and you never know, but it seems that so far nobody's talking like anybody's had any issues.
Bob, let me ask you this, because I don't think anybody's really clear on it. You might have more insight than most. Was it the mounting points of the rear end? Was that the issue of the car? I mean, what was the big issue with the way they had the rear end mounted in it?
I think the issue is that they were trying to create rear skew, and they and the rule NASCAR added 2 graphs to the rule book this year, and one says that the suspension can't rotate anything beyond normal or what it's normally designed to do, and that's one of the rules that they got these guys on. So there's probably debate on exactly whether what they did was gray area or not, and probably a debate on what's normal and not. So, but it's obvious NASCAR added a couple graphs to the rule book on suspension, so so on rear suspension. So they're obviously this is kind of a point of emphasis this year.
Well, is it one of those? I know they have to go through the approval process when they come up with the design, like the oil pan that Gibbs didn't show exactly. Take us through that. They have to take it to NASCAR, have them approve it, and then if it doesn't get approved, NASCAR doesn't share that information or let anybody else know what they are trying to get approved. Just kind of take us through.
Well, I mean, you just go and you bring your part over to NASCAR and say, is this good? And I think NASCAR prefers that it be done during the week, at their R&D center in Charlotte and not at the racetrack. Mm-hmm. And they may take a look at it for a couple of days, but usually they'll take a look and say, okay. Or they'll say no, and they don't share any of the information of what's approved or not with anybody else except for the team. And then, but again, you can have a part approved, but then if it's kind of manipulated in a way
after it's approved.
I mean, one of the rules in this is that the whole assembly needs to be approved. That how everything is put together. So maybe Penske had some parts they thought were approved, but when put together, NASCAR says
the combination maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's pretty much NASCAR's book, and and we'll see. We'll know because from what we've seen in appeals that it sounds like that they take into consideration what NASCAR has told the teams about these parts and pieces previously, and if so, or if there's been any sort of kind of indication that NASCAR has given them approval, then I would think that Penske would win on appeals, but I don't see that happening.
Were they ratted out? That's a big question around it. Did Hendrick, 48 team, did they tell NASCAR about? I mean, or does it really matter?
It doesn't matter as far as the rules go. A lot of people in the garage think somebody ratted them out. Now, the question is, what's ratting you out? Are they going to NASCAR and saying, hey, this team is doing this, you need to bust them? Or, hey, we see this team is doing this. We didn't think we could work in this area, but can we? I mean, so because if you see somebody doing something, you want to do it too. If they're not, if it's not considered illegal,
or at least look into doing it.
Exactly. Before you start spending the money to engineer parts and pieces and make parts and pieces, I wouldn't put it past somebody just going up there and saying, hey, they're doing this, we think that's illegal. But if it's not, let us know because we're going to
want
stop.
to do it.
Exactly.
Right. Brad Keselowski, will his filter ever get a little more coarse? I mean,
Well, I mean, he will age in years, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, we've seen
I
it
hope
from many
not, 'cause
drivers.
it's darn fun, isn't it? I mean, it's.
I hope he doesn't.
It's one of those things. I mean, that's what makes Brad, and as he said the other day, he was on his stages of acceptance, and he was in his angry stage when he got out of the car.
Those of us in radio, though, my only complaint about Brad is we got to work too hard to bleep out all the bad words and stuff. If he can just clean that up a little bit, that's all.
I wish we could just hear the bad words, just unfilter it. That's what I wish. So, but that's only happening on the internet, I guess. But
yeah.
Anyway, I want to ask you quickly though. What about? Did you want to ask a Brad question? Okay.
No, I'm just going to follow up Brad Keselowski. I mean, we're talking he's coming off the championship, and has he changed as a person, or is he still the same guy that he was before?
Has his head started to swell up at all?
I think he's busier and he has more commitments, and so in some ways, I don't want to say he's overwhelmed, but he's trying to make keep everybody happy sometimes, and knows that he can't, and so. I think that can be a tough thing for him. I think as a champion, he feels like his voice maybe carries more, or that, he should be able to say certain things because, hey, they're performing well, they're winning, they're one of the top teams in the sport. And so I think he uses that stage. And I think there's some people who probably say, well, you need to back it down, you're still 29 years old.
Right. Don't forget.
Right, exactly.
Let me ask you about the young drivers and where we are with the transition. I think we're in a transition state when it comes to popularity of drivers, old school drivers that have been around a while. The new has wore off of them, like the Jeff Gordons, the Matt Kenseths. The list goes on and on. Kevin Harvick. Do you see the fans accepting the transition to the Ricky Stenhouse Juniors, the young drivers that are coming up through the ranks? Do you feel that we're in good shape there? Because I always worry about that. When the old guys go, do the fans leave? And are we in a good transition? Are we getting those young people to follow, bring more young people to follow the young guys?
Hope so. I mean, I think it's difficult. There's still a lot of Casey Kane fans who are Bill Elliott fans, right? Because Casey Kane replaced Bill Elliott in the 9 car. But it's. I certainly think that fans haven't always followed. There was why did the Gordon, Earnhardt, Rusty Wallace battles seem to resonate more than the Harvick, Johnson, Edwards battles or the Edwards Stewart battle? Yeah, So I'd say that it's almost. You almost have to cultivate new fans, or hope that the fans of other drivers, stick with maybe the team that they were following, or find a new driver. I think the new cars help a little bit, and I think it's just a matter of trying to keep as much good from the 90s as you can, but also know that it's a little bit bigger sport at this time. So, I mean, it's definitely difficult. I would say that there's no doubt that some of the traditional fan base has been lost over the last 5 years. And it's up to the sport to try to either get those fans back or engage new fans.
Yeah, because I've had more of my longtime friends that have been NASCAR fans tell me I just don't watch it as much as I used to. I used to just religiously watch it every week, and now I don't. And I've had more than a few people tell me that, and I'm trying to get a finger on why that is.
People's
just
habits
because they don't
over
relate.
the years too.
Is it that, or they don't relate to the drivers like they used to?
I think it's a little bit of everything, right? You had cars that didn't look like the cars that they drove on the track. You moved from fewer short tracks in the southeast to bigger tracks across the nation. That bothered some people. And then you had drivers who were just a little bit more corporate than what you were used to in the past, and some of that didn't resonate with people. But I think the racing is better now than it was.
Oh, I mean,
it's such a different society.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about how do drivers relate to fans. I mean, now you're talking about social media and Twitter. I mean, that's not stuff that anybody who probably got disengaged over the last 5 or 6 years is probably
right.
It's the way to engage them, right?
Right,
But that's the way
because-
you do it. But that's the way you try to engage fans now.
I think they ought to let the drivers under every caution text while they're out on the track. I mean,
Yeah,
really.
but we're supposed to give a message. You're not supposed to text and drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're driving in a professional environment. It's different.
I think fans just want to see passion, and then when you get more money and you get on bigger stage, it's harder for that passion to kind of be relayed, and obviously with as much riding on sponsorship, it's also difficult sometimes for drivers to show that passion.
These new cars have really helped out a lot, haven't they? I mean, those old the COT car looked boxy. They all looked the same, and I think a lot of fans were kind of pushed away from that because the Ford looked like a Chevy and so forth. Now we're getting really good-looking race cars out here with this Gen 6 car. That's got to draw people back, and I think you're right, Bob. I think the racing is better now.
I think, it was funny when the new car came out and everybody's like, hey, it's going to make the racing better and everything. I'm like, well, I'm not so sure of that, but at least it'll look better.
Right. Yeah.
And, think about a basketball game. If you watch you could say a team loses by 15 points, but if they lose 60 to 45, that's not as exciting as if they lose 115 to 100, right? And so just the look of it, I think, can make it more exciting. And I think that these cars have raced better than the other cars. So, I still think they have some ways to go. But I do. It looks like that drivers are more. It looks like that the leader does not have as big of an advantage in this car as it did in the past.
Yeah. Well.
And I think a big deal, part of that is tire wear.
Sure, I like that they went to the I'm going to say it here, the composite component bodies, on there, because they can make the line, they can make the body look more like the factory car by doing it. The fenders are flared out. I was going to ask you, did a lot of body men lose their jobs down there in North Carolina?
No, I mean, I think
wind tunnel guys, that are always massaging when they were.
No, I mean. They wreck enough cars. I think body guys are.
All right, because I had some friends down there. I was kind of wondering about that. So, anyway, well, Bob, thanks so much for being in. Your thoughts about the track? What do you expect?
It's going to be fast. Today? It's going to be
narrow.
Yeah, although I think the top groove could come in. Guys are going to be taking 2 tires a lot. This will be a first race this year where tire wear really doesn't come into play and doesn't really dictate as much strategy in the sense of do I take 2 or 4 because I've got tire wear. It'll be more what do I need for track position.
And it's going to be critical.
But the thing is there could be a lot of cautions, and so if there are, there'll be guys trying to decide whether they even come in or not.
Yeah, 14 cautions last year. Side by side, double file restarts, that makes for an exciting race. That's what everybody loves, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I think the key to today will be because you don't have tire wear as an issue, what are going to be the things? And I think if there are some cautions and stuff, cautions will breed cautions, and guys will be really gunning on those restarts because track position is so important, and some of the best time to get it is on those restarts.
And getting on pit road, critical. Because we're hearing a lot of drivers struggling with that here, so that we need to keep an eye on that as well.
Yeah, there isn't a lot of there's not a huge apron here to kind of run around before you get to pit road and it comes up on you quick.
All right, Bob.
And especially on green flag pit stops. That'll be. I'm not sure we'll see many of those today.
Right.
Bob, we appreciate you coming by.
All right, thank you.
Enjoy the race.
Thank you very much.
Sporting News. Check them out at sportingnews.com. And we're coming back with more pre-race coverage here at Kansas Speedway with the RacinBoys in just a couple of minutes. Stay with us.